Welcome back to Math Tutories. For today, we're going to classify triangles based on its sides and angles. A triangle is a polygon with 3 sides, 3 angles, and 3 vertices. Here, we have triangle ABC with the following parts. To name a triangle, we use the symbol for triangle and we use its 3 vertices. So this is named as triangle ABC. For its sides, we have the different segments, segment AB, segment BC, and segment AC. For the angles, we have angle A, B, and C. And for the vertices, that is where the 2 line segments meet. So we have point A, point B, or point C. Recall also that the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is always equal to 180 degrees. A triangle can be classified or named based on its side or angle. For the triangles according to sides, we have the first one, equilateral triangle. When we say equilateral, all sides of this triangle are equal to each other. To emphasize the side of triangle, we can have this tick mark, which means that if one side is equal to 6 inches, the other sides also measure 6 inches. Next, for the isosceles triangle, dito naman, only these 2 sides are equal to each other, while the last side is not equal. We can have the sample measures 8 inches for 2 sides, while the other one will not be equal to 8. So that is for isosceles triangle. The last one is what we call scalene triangle. Scalene triangle has no side that is equal to each other. To emphasize that these 3 sides are not equal, we can use different tick marks. So suppose this one is 6 inches, 9 inches, and 8 inches. As you can see, the measure of each side is not equal to each other, so therefore, that is considered as scalene. As you notice, we base each of the following triangles based on the measure of its sides. Now let's classify the triangles based on its angles. First, we have an acute triangle. For this triangle, we must have 3 acute interior angles, which means that each of these angles must measure less than 90 degrees. So for example, 30 degrees, 70 degrees, and 80 degrees. All of them are acute and less than 90 degrees, so that is an acute triangle. Next, we have a right triangle. So here, we must have one right angle or one angle that measures exactly 90 degrees. In this triangle, we have this symbol which shows that this angle is 90 degrees. This one is automatically considered as a right triangle. Next, we have an obtuse triangle. Of course, since it is an obtuse triangle, we must have an angle that is obtuse in measure. That means an angle must measure greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. For example, this one measures 120 degrees, so this is an obtuse angle. Automatically, the whole triangle is classified as an obtuse triangle. And the last one is what we call equiangular triangle. Here, all angles are equal. This is an example of an equiangular triangle. Remember that the sum of all interior angles of a triangle is always 180. So if we need to divide it equally by 3 angles, that means each measure of the angle is always equal to 60 degrees. Okay? So let's have more examples. Suppose in this triangle, we have all sides that are equal. We classify it as equilateral. equilateral. And if at the same time all of the angles here are equal, we classify it as equiangular as well. So recall that if a polygon is equilateral and equiangular, we also classify it as regular polygon. Therefore, this triangle is an example of regular triangle. In the second example, suppose two sides have equal measure. We classify it as isosceles triangle. And if one of its angles measure exactly 90 degrees, this one is considered a right triangle. So here, this triangle is classified as isosceles right triangle. While for the last example, it's very obvious that all of the sides are not equal to each other, so this one is an example of scalene. And since one of the angles look or measure more than 90 degrees, this one is an obtuse triangle. So this triangle is scalene obtuse triangle. So again, ang pagka-classify ay depende sa purpose. Pwede namang by side lang, pwede rin namang by angle, or pwede namang both. Now let us answer the practice exercises. For part 1, let us classify the following according to sides and angles. So in the following figures, meron namang naka-indicate na measure sa bawat side at sa bawat angle. For number 1, all of the sides here are not equal to each other. Therefore, this one is scalene. While for the angles, we have 30, 60, 90. One of it measures exactly 90 degrees. Therefore, this triangle is right triangle. For number 2, the sides are not also equal to each other. So this is also scalene. And for the angles, we have 24, 45, and 111. 111 degrees is an example of obtuse angle. Therefore, this one is a scalene obtuse triangle. For number 3, we have all sides that are equal to each other. This is equilateral. And at the same time, all of the angles are equal. So this is equiangular. And since it is both equilateral and equiangular, we can also classify these as regular triangle. And for the last one, we have two sides that are equal to 6. That is an example of isosceles. And for the angles, we also have two angles that are equal, while the remaining one measures 150 degrees, and 150 is an obtuse angle. Therefore, this triangle is an isosceles obtuse triangle. Okay? For part 2, given only the measurement, identify the kinds of triangle. Here are the following measurements. Kapag may degree, that pertains to the angles, at kapag wala naman, that pertains to the length of each side. For number 1, we have 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. Let's examine each measure. Since one of its angles measures exactly 90 degrees, this is considered a right triangle. So to show that in figure, ito yung example ng 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. Next, for number 2, we have 26, 43, and 111 degree triangle. So here, we have one angle that measures more than 90 degrees. So this one is classified as an obtuse triangle. For number 3, we have the lengths of the sides, 5, 11, 8. They are not equal to each other. Therefore, it is an example of scalene triangle. For numbers 2 and 3, so here is an example of our figure. Next, for number 4, we have 4, 6, 6. Notice that we have two sides that are both equal to 6. Therefore, this one is an isosceles triangle. While for number 5, the following measures of the angles 40, 70, 70, all of which are less than 90 degrees, which means all of those angles are acute and therefore that triangle is an acute triangle. So here is the example of the figure for numbers 4 and 5. Alright, so again, depende sa given na measurement or figure kung paano natin i-classify ang isang triangle. You can classify it either based on its side or based on its angle. Thank you for listening. I hope that you have learned fully and clearly the different kinds of triangles. Thank you.